The silent laughter. The rain tapped softly on the roof of an old, crumbling building. Inside, a young boy sat in a dark corner, his arms wrapped around his knees. He was no older than 7, but his eyes looked older, like he had already lived 1,000 lifetimes. In that tiny, broken room, silence lived with him like a second shadow. His name was rarely spoken. Most people called him the silent boy. Not because he was mute. He could speak, but he didn't. Words felt like sharp stones in his throat. At school, whenever he opened his mouth, children laughed. His English was broken, his voice uncertain, and the words came out in the wrong order. One day, a teacher laughed too, so he stopped speaking altogether. He lived with his mother, a thin woman with gentle eyes and a weak body. She worked long hours washing clothes for neighbors. Every night she coughed herself to sleep, whispering sorry for the things she couldn't give him. There was no father in the picture. He had left long ago. No explanation, just silence. Much like the one his son had inherited. The boy didn't play with others. He spent his time watching people, studying them. He watched how they smiled, how they cried, how they moved when they were angry or nervous. He memorized the way street performers made crowds laugh without saying a word. He was quiet, but he noticed everything. He found joy in small things. A kitten chasing its tail. A balloon caught in a tree. A man tripping over a puddle and then laughing at himself. Those moments made him smile inside. But his lips rarely moved. One morning, while walking through the busy street corner near the market, he saw something magical. A man dressed in a huge yellow coat with a crooked red hat danced in front of a small crowd. His face was painted white, with a giant red smile drawn across his cheeks. The man slipped, fell, bounced back up, pulled a fake flower from his sleeve, and pretended to cry when it didn't bloom. The children around him burst into laughter. Even tired adults couldn't help but smile. The boy stood frozen, mesmerized. The man was funny, really funny, but not just because of his tricks. It was the way he moved, the way he expressed every emotion without speaking. There was something powerful in his silence. After the crowd left, the boy walked slowly to the man. "You liked the show?" the man asked. The boy nodded shyly. "Wanna try something?" he said, pulling out a red rubber nose and placing it gently on the boy's face. For the first time in years, the boy laughed out loud. That man's name was Eddie. He became the boy's first teacher, not in a classroom, but on the street. He showed him how to move, how to fall, how to cry and laugh without saying a word. They practiced together every weekend. Eddie showed him how to communicate with silence, how to tell a story with nothing but his face and hands. "You don't need perfect English to be funny," Eddie told him once. "You just need to understand people." The boy began performing on the streets with Eddie. At first, he was shy, but when he saw people laughing at his silly jumps, exaggerated expressions, and over-the-top falls, something inside him changed. He began to smile more. His body became more confident. Even his eyes started speaking. But one thing still haunted him: English. He wanted to do more. He wanted to write his own jokes, talk to the audience, maybe even act one day. But the fear of English held him back. So, he made a decision. He found an old English workbook in the trash near a school. It had missing pages and ink stains, but he held it like treasure. Every night, he wrote new words on scraps of paper and stuck them to the wall. Apple. Smile. Run. Happy. Sad. He practiced them with actions. Happy came with a big smile. Sad with a pout. He started making faces in the mirror, acting out each word. His mother watched, often with tears in her eyes. She didn't understand English, but she understood effort. When he performed on the street, he began adding simple lines. At first, the crowd laughed because of his funny pronunciation. But slowly, they began to cheer for him. They saw his effort. They saw his courage. One evening, after a long day of performing, the boy returned home to find the door open. His heart dropped. His mother was not there. The neighbor told him she had fainted and was taken to the hospital. He ran all the way there. But he was too late. His mother had taken her last breath just minutes before he arrived. She had whispered his name with her final breath. The boy stood by her bed, staring. No tears came. Just silence. The silence he had once chosen now crushed him. He had no words. No voice. That night, he sat in their empty room, surrounded by English word cards. He picked one at random. Hope. He stared at it for hours. Then he whispered it aloud. Not for the world to hear. Just for her. I will not stop, he said softly, I promise. After his mother's death, Eddie gave him a ticket to a small community theater. He had never been inside one before. The lights, the red curtain, the smell of makeup and wooden floors. It was another world. He sat silently, watching the actors perform. They were bold, confident, fluent in English. He didn't understand everything, but he understood the feeling. He wanted to be on that stage, not just to make people laugh, but to speak, to be heard. After the show, he went backstage and asked the director if he could help in any way. She said yes. He began sweeping the floors, cleaning props, arranging costumes, anything to stay close. He practiced secretly, watched the actors rehearse lines, repeated the English sentences when no one was listening. Day by day, word by word, he built his voice. One day, during rehearsal, an actor fell sick. The director looked around. Who can read 3 lines from the script? She asked. The boy raised his hand. You, she said. You don't speak much English, do you? I can try, he replied. They handed him the script. His hands trembled as he read. I don't know what tomorrow brings, but I'm ready to face it. The room fell silent. The director nodded. Good. Let's try that on stage. It was only a few lines, but to him, it felt like 1,000 steps. He began acting in more small plays. His confidence grew. His English got better. He made mistakes, but he laughed at them, just like he laughed when he tripped on stage. People admired his effort. They didn't laugh at him anymore. They clapped for him. Soon, he started writing his own comedy pieces. He mixed English with physical humor. His routines were different, emotional, and full of heart. People cried, then laughed, then clapped. He was no longer the silent boy. He was a voice, a performer, a comedian with something to say. Years later, he stood on a national stage. His sketch was about a boy who wanted to speak but couldn't. About learning one word at a time. About losing his mother. About a clown with no money but endless hope. At the end of the act, he stood still. The audience rose to their feet in silence. Then they exploded in applause. After the show, a little girl came to him backstage. She had trouble speaking. She stammered when she said hello. He knelt down and smiled. You know, he whispered, I couldn't speak either. Not for a long time. The girl looked surprised. But, you are so good now. He pointed to his chest. Because I started with one word. Then another. Then more. You can do it too. She smiled. And just like that, His story began again, this time, inside someone else. This is not just the story of a comedian. It's the story of courage, of learning, of speaking even when your voice shakes. The story of a boy who lost everything, except hope. He didn't have books, or schools, or teachers. But he had determination. And that was enough. If you are scared of English, of speaking, of trying, remember this. One word is all it takes to begin. One smile. One dream. One step. Start now. Start small. But start. Thank you for watching today's story. If you liked it, please like, share, and subscribe to help us grow. We really appreciate your support. See you in the next video.